Have you ever lain awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, your body exhausted beyond words, and yet your mind refuses to be still? The house is quiet. Everyone else seems to be sleeping, and there you are, replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, calculating tomorrow's tasks, wondering whether you said the wrong thing, whether you are prepared enough, whether everything will fall apart if you close your eyes for just a moment. There's a particular kind of cruelty in that feeling. The body so heavy with tiredness and the mind so relentlessly, almost cruelly awake. You are not broken. You are not alone in this. Countless people lie in that same darkness, night after night, fighting the same invisible battle. A battle against their own thoughts. A war that no one can see and no one ever wins the way they hope to win it. Perhaps you have tried everything. You have counted your breaths. You have turned the pillow to the cool side. You have watched the clock move from midnight to 1, from 1 to 2 each minute, feeling like a small accusation. And the harder you try to silence the noise inside your head, the louder it seems to grow. As if the effort itself were feeding the very thing you are trying to extinguish. This is not weakness, this is not a character flaw, this is something deeply human, something ancient, something that has kept countless people company in the hours when the rest of the world has gone still. The exhaustion of nighttime thinking is real. The way it hollows you out by morning is real. The frustration of needing sleep so badly and being denied it by your own mind, that is real, and it deserves to be spoken out loud before anything else is said. If you have been searching for something that truly understands what happens in those long, quiet hours, not just tips and tricks, but a deeper way of being with yourself at night, then stay here a little longer. There is a wisdom waiting for you in this reflection that does not promise magic, but does promise something more lasting, a different relationship with the silence. If this kind of teaching speaks to something in you, consider subscribing to this channel, where gentle reflections like this one arrive regularly, offered as companions for the quieter moments of life. Because what Buddhist wisdom teaches about the restless mind at night is not what most people expect to hear. It does not say, try harder. It does not say, discipline your thoughts into submission. It says something far more surprising, far more gentle, and once understood, far more freeing. It says, the struggle itself is the problem. The resistance is the noise. And the path toward rest is not a path of force. It is a path of letting go, of stepping aside, of allowing the water to clear on its own. This is not passivity. This is not giving up. This is one of the most sophisticated and compassionate forms of intelligence available to the human mind. The wisdom to know when not to act, when not to push, when to simply be present without trying to change what is. Imagine a glass of water that has been shaken. The water is cloudy, full of sediment, impossible to see through. Now imagine that you keep stirring it, keep tapping the glass, keep trying to fix it by doing more. The water only grows murkier, but if you simply set it down, if you do nothing at all, the sediment slowly, inevitably sinks to the bottom on its own. The water clears itself. The mind works in precisely this way. During the day, life keeps the glass in constant motion. Conversations, decisions, worries, plans, all of it stirs the sediment of thoughts and emotions until everything is swirling. Night comes. The body needs stillness, but the glass has been shaken so many times for so many hours that simply lying down does not immediately stop the stirring. The water is still moving, the sediment is still suspended, and the most natural instinct to fix it, to solve it, to clear it by force of will only keeps the particles in motion. This is the first thing to understand about a restless night. The mind is not doing something wrong. It is doing exactly what a shaken glass of water does. It is settling, and settling takes time. Settling requires that you stop stirring, not by force, simply by choosing gently and repeatedly not to add more movement to what is already in motion. There is a concept in ancient teaching that describes the nighttime mind with striking accuracy. The image of a monkey jumping from branch to branch, never landing, never resting, always in motion. During the day, this monkey mind is tethered by the weight of tasks. There is always somewhere to be, something to do, something to attend to. The busyness of waking life keeps the monkey occupied, but in the silence of night the tasks are gone, the tether loosens. And the monkey, freed from its daytime responsibilities, begins to jump from one worry to the next, from a memory to a fear, from an unresolved conflict to an imagined catastrophe. It is not malicious. It is simply what a mind without an anchor does. It seeks, it searches, it tries to process the enormous quantity of experience it has accumulated throughout the day, and without the natural rhythm of activity to guide it, it moves in circles. Understanding this changes something. You stop taking the thoughts personally. They are not signs of danger, they are not prophecies, they are the monkey, restless, searching for a branch that actually holds. And what you are about to discover is that the branch it has been searching for was never sought at all. One of the most persistent illusions about nighttime thinking is the belief that the mind can be turned off. That with enough effort, enough technique, enough willpower, you can simply silence the noise. But anyone who has truly tried this knows how thoroughly it fails. You tell yourself to stop thinking about the problem, and immediately you're thinking about the problem. You tell yourself to relax, and the command itself creates tension. You watch the minutes pass, and with each minute the pressure to fall asleep grows heavier, turning the very act of trying to rest into a kind of performance, a test you keep failing. The harder you grip, the more slippery sleep becomes. This is not a coincidence. This is one of the most fundamental truths about the human mind. Resistance amplifies. What you fight, you strengthen. What you push against pushes back. The battle against nighttime thoughts is always lost precisely because it is a battle. And the moment you truly understand this, not just intellectually, but in the bones, in the chest, in the way the shoulders finally drop, something shifts. You stop fighting. Not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. You recognize the war for what it is, unnecessary. You lay down arms not because the enemy won, but because you finally see that there was never an enemy at all. There were only thoughts, passing, impermanent, never as solid as they seemed. The breath has been a doorway in contemplative traditions for thousands of years, and not because breathing is complicated or special. It is a doorway precisely because it is ordinary, because it is always here, because unlike thoughts, which race ahead into tomorrow and drag behind into yesterday, the breath only ever exists right now. When you breathe in, that inhale is happening in this moment, not in the future you are worried about, not in the past you are replaying, here. This is why returning to the breath when the mind wanders is not a technique for suppression. It is not about stopping thoughts by replacing them with something else. It is about giving the mind a real place to land, a branch that actually holds still. Each time a worry arises, and it will arise many times, you do not argue with it. You do not reason with it or analyze it or try to resolve it at 2 a.m. when nothing can be resolved. You simply notice it, the way you might notice a sound from outside, a car passing, a dog somewhere in the distance, and you return, gently, without judgment, back to the breath, the chest rising, the chest falling, the particular quality of night air. This returning is not failure. Every time you come back to the breath after wandering, you are not losing the practice, you are practicing. Each return is a small act of freedom, a moment where the thinking mind is not in charge, where you're simply a body breathing in the dark, alive, present, safe. The day that has just passed is finished. This sounds obvious, and yet how many people carry it intact into the darkness with them? Every unresolved email, every conversation that did not go as hoped, every task left undone, every moment of doubt or regret, all of it brought along into the bed like luggage that never gets unpacked. There is a beautiful teaching embedded in the idea that the past is not changed by continued attention. The words that were said this morning are already fixed, already settled into the fabric of what happened, already beyond the reach of tonight's worry. No amount of replaying them changes them. No amount of analyzing them makes them different. The day that passed has already passed. It is, in a very real sense, complete. Not necessarily resolved, not necessarily perfect, but complete. And the self that will face tomorrow's challenges needs something specific from tonight. Not more analysis, not more planning, not more rehearsal of what went wrong. It needs rest. It needs the kind of renewal that only comes when the mind is finally willing to close the book, to acknowledge that this chapter is written and to trust that tomorrow is a new page. There's something almost sacred about this permission. The permission to let the day go. To say with genuine softness, I did what I did. It is finished and I'm allowed to rest. Think about how you carry a tool during the day. A craftsman picks up a hammer when there is something to hammer, and when the work is done, the hammer is set down. No craftsman goes to sleep still gripping the hammer. Not because the hammer is bad, but because the work is over. The mind is the most extraordinary tool ever known. It solves problems, it plans, it protects, it creates, and for everything it does throughout the waking hours, it deserves genuine respect. But the mind that cannot be set down, the mind that is still hammering long after the workshop has closed, is a mind that never rests, and a tool that never rests eventually breaks down. The act of lying in bed at night, still turning problems over and over, still trying to solve what cannot be solved until morning brings new information, is the equivalent of the craftsman gripping the hammer in his sleep. It is not dedication, it is not vigilance, it is a habit, a deeply human, deeply understandable habit, Shinmun, of not knowing how to stop. And like any habit, it can be gently, compassionately unlearned, not forced out, not shamed away, simply replaced one night at a time with something softer. The willingness to set the tool down, to trust that the workshop will be there in the morning, to trust that the problems we're solving will still be solvable after the rest the mind so deeply needs. While the mind races through imagined futures and reconstructed pasts, the body has been patiently waiting with a much simpler message. Not a story, not a prediction, not a worry, just sensation. The particular weight of tired limbs, the warmth spreading through the back where it meets the mattress, the subtle loosening of muscles that have been held in tension all day. The body does not lie the way the mind sometimes does. The mind can convince itself of danger when there is none, can manufacture urgency where nothing urgent exists, can turn a quiet evening into a courtroom and a bedroom into a place of trial. But the body, if you allow yourself to listen to it, speaks only the truth of this moment. And the truth of this moment most nights is simple and unhurried. I am tired, I am warm, I am here. This practice, moving awareness slowly and deliberately through the body, from the feet upward, noticing without judgment whatever sensation is present, is not about achieving a particular state. It is not about making yourself relax. Relaxation, like sleep, cannot be pursued directly without it retreating. This practice is about redirecting attention from the stories in the mind to the reality in the body, from the imagined to the actual, from the noisy to the quiet, from the running commentary of a restless mind to the simple, immediate, undeniable fact of a body at rest, breathing, alive, present in the room. When awareness enters the body fully, the mind has less room to roam. Not because the thoughts are suppressed, but because presence, genuine embodied presence, leaves less space for the machinery of worry to run unchecked. If you have found moments of recognition in what has been shared here, if something in these words has spoken to the exhausted part of you that simply wants to know how to rest, consider staying close to teachings like these. There is more to explore, more to settle into, more to discover about the mind and its relationship with stillness. Subscribing means these reflections will continue to find you, offered not as instructions but as companions on the quieter road. Because the last and perhaps the most important thing to understand about sleeplessness is this: the night is not your enemy. The darkness is not a punishment. The silence, even when it frightens, even when it fills with thoughts you did not invite, is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Insomnia and restlessness are, in their deepest nature, a kind of searching. The mind looking for what cannot actually be found in thought. Looking for safety, looking for resolution. Looking for the particular peace that comes when the self finally stops performing, stops solving, stops being useful, and is permitted to simply exist. This peace does not arrive through effort, it arrives through surrender, not the defeat of surrender, but the profound intelligence of it. The understanding that sleep, like breath, like love, like the clearing of cloudy water, cannot be forced into being. It can only be welcomed, it can only be allowed. And the allowing begins the moment you stop insisting that things be different from what they are. The moment you meet the restless mind, not with frustration, not with commands to be quiet, but with the same gentle acknowledgement you might offer a tired child. I see you. I hear you. You are safe. You do not have to solve anything tonight. There will be nights when the thoughts are louder than usual, nights when something heavy is sitting in the chest and will not move, nights when the breath seems shallow and the body seems unwilling to yield. These nights are not failures, they are not evidence that the practice does not work. They are simply the harder nights, the nights that require more gentleness, not less. A tree in a storm does not blame itself for bending. It bends because that is what living things do when the wind is strong. And when the wind passes, and it always passes, the tree is still there, roots intact, standing in the quiet that follows. You are that tree. The thoughts that come in the night are weather. Real weather, sometimes fierce weather, but weather nonetheless. Passing, temporary, ultimately unable to uproot what is most essentially you. What you are looking for at night is not silence. Silence in the strictest sense may not come. The mind may never be completely still, not in the way a stone is still. But there is a different kind of stillness available, one that does not require the absence of thought. It is the stillness of the observer, the awareness that watches thoughts arise and pass without being consumed by them. The sky that is not disturbed by the clouds moving through it. When you discover this stillness, even briefly, even in the middle of a difficult night, something in you recognizes it immediately. It feels like coming home. It feels like the moment when a body that has been braced against something difficult finally releases. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for a very long time. This is not a metaphor. This is something you can actually find in your own bed, in your own darkness, in your own ordinary night, not by reaching for it, but by stopping the reaching. Not by trying to create it, but by noticing that it was always there, underneath the noise, patient, unhurried, waiting for you to arrive. So tonight, when the thoughts come, and they will come, do not meet them with the tightened jaw and the clenched fist of someone who has decided that this is a battle to be won. Meet them instead the way you might meet an old acquaintance who has stopped by uninvited. You don't have to entertain them. You do not have to offer them tea and stay up talking until dawn. You can simply acknowledge their presence and return to what matters most in this moment. The breath moving through the body, the warmth of the bed, the simple and staggering fact that you're alive and resting in the darkness, and that there is, right now, nothing that needs to be solved, nothing that needs to be fixed, nothing that needs to be carried any further tonight. The day is done, the book is closed, the tool is set down, and the water, left in peace at last, is quietly, steadily, beautifully beginning to clear. May your nights grow gentler, may the silence become less frightening and more familiar. May you discover one quiet breath at a time that rest was never something you had to earn. It was always something you were allowed to receive, and if these words have offered even a small measure of peace, know that there is more waiting for you here. Subscribe and let these teachings continue to find you night after night, as steady and patient as breath itself.